Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book loving, notebook hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of bookology. What's that? That's the study of books and reading and notebooks and writing mixed with mindful practices and creativity to create lives we love. Here, you'll find episodes exploring the reading and writing life and how they can make our actual lives better. You'll get book recommendations and notebooking prompts around particular themes, and you'll even hear from authors and special guests who can fuel our reading and writing hearts and help us take inspired action in our own daily practices. So, grab a notebook and your TBR list, and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. I'm Stephanie, your host and personal bookologist, here with an episode on how reading and writing can change your life, just one book and one notebook at a time, especially if you read the books we're going to talk about today. So, if you are listening to this episode in real time, then it is the middle of Banned Books Week. In 2024, that week runs from September 22nd to September 28th. And what is it? It's an annual event celebrating the freedom to read. It is declaring that all of us should be able to read what we want, when we want, and how we want to do it. The book community really comes together during this week, whether they are authors and publishers, readers, booksellers, librarians, educators, anyone else who feels connected to this book world. We band together during this week and we declare that there should be a freedom to write, to publish, to read, to express our ideas, and to let the reader decide what they want to read. Now, to me, that just seems like a natural right as a reader. I want to read what I want, when I want, how I want, and where I want, quite frankly. But we need this week because of some shocking statistics. Now, the American Library Association has declared that book banning is on the rise. And it's not just on the rise a little bit, it's on the rise a lot of it. Book banning actually surged 65% in 2023, the highest number of challenged book titles ever were challenged in 2023. Over 4,000 books to be exact. 4,240 books were challenged and were requested to be banned. And so during this week, we fight back. We fight back on that book banning so that readers can declare they can read what they want, when they want, and how they want. Now, what would some of these books be banned for, right? What books are so awful that they can't be seen in public? Well, according to the American Library Association, books are banned for all sorts of reasons. And here's just a laundry list of them: obscenity, pornographic nature, and I'm putting pornographic nature in quotes because that is defined in a whole lot of different ways: violence, sexual violence, LGBTQ plus representation, religious views, books that are deemed unsuitable for a particular age group, drug use, anti-family, political views, and religious views, just to name a few of the big ones. So here's what I think, and I hope you care what I think. Because you're listening to this podcast, I think you do. And I think that you probably think the same because you are here and you know the power of reading. I think that all people everywhere should be able to choose what they want to read, how they want to read it, when they want to read it, and why they want to read it. I think they need the freedom And I'm saying instead of FREEDOM, I'm borrowing the slogan from Banned Books Week, which is FREAD for freedom, right? That we all deserve that freedom to read what we want. And if we as readers deserve that freedom to read what we need and what we want, then writers need the freedom and the safety, quite frankly, to be able to write what they need and want so that it finds us as a reader. I think we could make this really simple with an analogy that might not seem like it links together, but in my mind, it fits pretty perfectly. So, for most of my life, I ate a regular diet. I could eat whatever I wanted. I didn't have any belly troubles. I didn't have any health problems. All was good. And then later, things changed. And now suddenly, I find myself gluten free, dairy free, almost sugar free, absolutely artificial sweetener free, and a whole bunch of other frees that, I wish I didn't have to be. But here's the thing. I decided that I needed to eat gluten free to feel better. And I'm just going to choose one of my restrictions, gluten free. Now, that's a choice that I am making because of my health and the way I want to feel. But just because I am gluten free, because I believe that's the best way, doesn't mean I make the people living with me change their diets. It doesn't mean I become a gluten-free guru and I make a comment every time I see someone in the restaurant eating something that is filled with gluten. It doesn't mean I go to the supermarket and I request that all of the gluten items are taken off the shelf because I don't think they should be there. Right? I would never do that. It is a personal choice. Things are out there. I choose what I want to surround myself with, what I want to ingest. And even though I'm ingesting them in a food way, when we have books, we ingest the information and we get to choose. Now, we can have whatever kind of preferences we want. I can be gluten free. You can choose to read certain books, and I can choose other books. But the problem for me is when we take that personal choice and we try to put our personal choices and opinions on other readers. If you don't want to read books with X, Y, or Z in it, great. Don't read them. You shouldn't have to. If I want to read books with X, Y, and Z in them, then I should be able to. So I know it's a really simplistic and maybe a very elementary school kind of analogy, but I feel like that same principle applies. I can choose one thing in my life and you can choose yours. I can choose what I want to read and you can choose what you want to read. I feel like our choices for ourselves do not need to be placed on other people. Yes, you get to decide what you want to read. You get to ban your own books, so to speak. And if we're talking about children, then those are your decisions that you make about what your children read as well. But I feel like those are personal decisions that shouldn't be left to anyone else. Now, I think there's more to it, right? I think that is a stance that many readers take, right? We can put whatever's out there and we can choose what we want to read. But I'm going to go a step further. And I'm going to say that I actually think we need to read banned books. We must read banned books. And I started out the episode saying that reading and writing could change your life one book and one notebook at a time, especially the books that I'm talking about today. And I want to unpack that a little bit. I want to give you 3 reasons why I think you should read banned books. Okay. Reason number 1, I think that you should read banned books because someone doesn't want you to. I'm going to typical teenage behavior here and thinking, okay, if someone doesn't want me to do that, well, then I'm going to do that thing. Right? When people ban books, They don't want that book out there. They don't want those ideas in the book put out into the world, put out into other people's minds. And what I'm saying is, when that happens, that means there's something good in there. And by good, I don't mean good in an evaluative sense. I mean, there's a powerful, important piece of information or perspective in there that you deserve. You deserve to know all sides of all of the stories. You deserve to know all perspectives of the world and the people in it. And you get to make up your own mind who you want to be. So if you don't read a banned book for any other reason at all, I think you should read it just because someone out there doesn't think you should. And therefore, I bet you there's a little piece of information there that could be a game changer. And I don't know what way that book or information could be a game changer for you, but chances are there's something in there that's going to get you thinking. It's going to get you questioning. It's going to get you all fired up, maybe. And I think that's a good thing for us to know about. And then we can decide how we want to bring that information into our own life or not. So, reason number one why you should read a banned book, because someone doesn't want you to. Now, reason number two, if something in a book triggers people, and that trigger could be a number of triggers, as we discussed earlier, I think we should read it. I think if something in the book triggers you, you have a responsibility to read it. Now, I don't mean triggers as in trigger warnings. If you know yourself and you know if you read something in a book that is about a particular topic and it is going to impact your mental health, it is going to make you feel bad, then please do not read it. I mean the kind of trigger that gets people all fired up, that gets people talking, that gets people opinionated, right? Those kinds of triggers where it just sparks something in people. I think we should read it. Because if there's anything I'm learning from the personal development field is that if it triggers you, you need to go into it. It is triggering you for a reason and you should explore it. One prime example is that, so many personal development people say when you are trying to figure out what you want next for your life, what you want your life to look at, think about what you're jealous about. Think about what you're jealous about, because underneath that jealousy is actually envy. And if you can figure out what you're envious of, you can figure out how to structure your life in the future to better be what you want it to be. So typically, when something triggers someone, there is something underlying that needs to be brought out. It needs to be discussed. It needs to be pondered. It needs to be written about in a notebook. It usually means there's something under the surface that if you go there, you'll learn. You'll broaden who you are and what you think about in the world simply by just being exposed to that material and to thinking about it. So, reason number one why you should read banned books, because someone doesn't want you to. Reason number two you should read banned books is because if it triggers someone, then that content is likely going to help you reflect and grow and get a new perspective. Now, reason number three, and this is a big one. This is the one that goes right to my heart. This is the one that I especially feel when I am working with children, and I know that children's literature has been banned. And here it is. If we are banning books because of a particular content, because of a particular perspective, because of a particular identity of the character in the book, we are not just banning the book. We are basically banning the humans that embrace those ideas, that live those ideas, that feel those identities. If someone says that those things in the book are just not normal, not mainstream, they're too whatever you want to insert there, and we try to ban them. What does that say to the people who align with that content? Now, I am not talking about content that is purposely hateful, that is purposely violent, that is purposely negative in some way. I'm talking about the books that are banned simply because the banners of the books don't agree with the material, don't believe it's right. That's the kind of content I'm talking about. And it really hurts my heart, my reading heart, and my actual heart to think that by banning books, we are sending people, real life people, the message that they don't matter because they align with that content in some way. So that's reason number 3, but I think it's at the forefront of everything. Banning books bans ideas and bans identities and has a huge, huge impact on the identity of the people reading them or identifying with them. So, 3 big reasons. Read it. Read these banned books because someone doesn't want you to. Because if it's triggering someone, it deserves to be uncovered. And to show people that they matter. And that by banning their books, we essentially are banning those identities. And I particularly just don't think that's right. Now, what are some popular books that have been banned that perhaps you should go pick up? Because that is the purpose of Banned Book Week. It's to bring awareness to the amount of books that are being banned. It's to bring awareness to the fact that we should all have the freedom to read. And it's asking people to do something, right? That do something could be to read read a banned book, buy a banned book, borrow a banned book. Talk about this with the people in your circles. Really embrace this freedom, FERADOM, this freedom to read. So, what are some books that I think you might want to pick up? Well, here are some books that are on the top 100 banned books of all time list, and I've just taken out a couple of them. Number 1, Beloved by Toni Morris. This is one that many of us love, that many of us have been impacted by in some way. And this one is one of the most requested to be banned books. How about The Color Purple by Alice Walker? A book that has been around for so long, that has been turned into movies, that has shaped culture, banned in many places. The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This one hurts my heart that it's banned because this is a book that had a powerful impact on me and how I see the world. I can only see the world from the perspective of my own eyes. Books allow me to see the perspective from a different set of eyes and to get a broader view of what the world is like and then to think about how I want to show up in it. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Oh my goodness, the poetry that I love by Maya Angelou. Melissa's Story by Alex Gino. Now, this book was originally George, but was changed to better reflect the changes in the character in the book. This book really helped me to understand and to see all the complexity of gender that I did not personally understand. And this one is a game changer for a lot of people, whether it's for you to be seen or for you to see. And then I just had to throw out one fun one out there from years ago. If you remember, 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James, of course, banned everywhere. So, for probably some obvious reasons from the list that I've talked about, but that book was a movement, right? That book brought people together and book clubs together. So these are books that have been banned that everyone should have the right to read if they want to. If they don't want to, you shouldn't have to read it. But if you want to, you should be given that choice. So I'd love for you to think about your own stance right now. As we are in the middle of Banned Books Week, if you are listening in real time, just think about what is your opinion on book banning? What do you think about it? I challenge you to read a banned book or at least add a banned book to your TBR this week. Maybe you go buy one at the bookstore in order to show your support, or maybe you just go to the library and you check it out to show your support that way. Maybe in opposition of the book banning, you go to your library and you request that one of the banned books is actually stocked there. And maybe your library isn't banning books. Yay for them. But just doing something to put that energy out there of these books deserve a place at the table so that we can decide if we want to pick them up. So I want to know. I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to know what banned books you've read that you would recommend. I want to know what banned books you cannot possibly believe were banned. And I would just love to know your thoughts on this topic. Again, I really think that every book has the potential to change someone's life. And if it is a book that someone is trying to ban, I think there is even more potential there than a so-called typical book. I'd love to know what you think of that. So that is it for me today. Let's sign off. Let's go do something this week to support Banned Books Week and our right to read whatever we want, however we want, whenever we want, and all the things. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. I so appreciate the fact that I get to come on here every week and talk to you about my opinions about books and reading, and I do hope you'll take me up on it to share yours. You can find me on social media at a lit life, or no, I'm sorry, my website is alitlife.com. Social media is at Afanita Lit. You can head into my Facebook group for the podcast, or as always, click on that audio button inside your favorite podcast platform and send me a direct message and let me know what you're thinking. Thanks for listening, everyone. Happy reading, and I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking inspiration, live events, giveaways, and more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content too. Learn more at getliterate.co. And one more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and it builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks for listening.